Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. And today I'd like to finish up my 3-film mini-series talking about 3 different movies from Alfred Hitchcock. A couple videos ago I talked about Shadow of a Doubt. My last video was on I Confess, and today I'm going to talk about a 1956 movie, The Wrong Man, starring Henry Fonda and Vera Miles. This is one of Hitchcock's most atypical films. This is a docudrama where Hitchcock takes a real-life case of mistaken identity and sticks close to the facts of the case, filming in many of the locations where the events that affected the victim of the mistaken identity, played by Henry Fonda. And this is Manny Ballesteros. And Manny Ballesteros is a bassist in the Stork Club. And he comes home one morning and his wife is awake. She's suffering from very severe toothache, wisdom teeth problems. They struggle with money. They have 2 young children. So later that day he goes to the insurance company where they have their life insurance, and he requesting to see if he can borrow off one of those policies to pay for the for the dental bills. When he's at the counter, the women behind the counter are all become very frightened looking. They talk amongst each other. They're looking at Manny. And Manny is not, and they expect him to do another robbery because this robber has robbed them twice before. But Manny just he doesn't take out a gun, he takes out a life insurance policy. And then they tell him, yeah, bring your wife back. But of course they immediately call the police. Manny, before he can get back home, is taken into custody. And the women are brought down. Of course, they're going to identify him in a lineup because they just saw him. But the police also take him to 2 stores in which the same robber is thought. The same robber had robbed these 2 stores with the same MO and the same characteristics, physical characteristics. So, and he's identified again. And then back at the station, they have him do handwriting, and the real robber had written out a note, a robbery note, that they had it in hand, and they ask Manny to print out the robbery note. They read it to him, he prints it out, and the police look at it. Well, this is almost exactly like Manny. We had eyewitnesses, another makeshift lineup. You might as well come clean. And Manny says, but I'm innocent, and he's taking this all in as sort of an average citizen would. Well, the police had told him, Manny, you have nothing to fear if you're innocent. Of course, Manny has everything to fear. So the film moves along, as I say, a docudrama. So there's nothing of the artifice that's generally in Hitchcock's films. There's no real melodrama. There's none of his wry wit. But it is a theme close to Hitchcock's heart, and that is the theme of the wrong man. So many of his heroes, his protagonists, have been misidentified as somebody that they're not. And then we have the guilt, the transference of guilt. Well, I'm not guilty, but maybe I am guilty. Everybody thinks I'm guilty. So we have the Hitchcock theme. I talked about the trial, Orson Welles' movie version of the trial a few videos back, which was from the Kafka novel about Joseph K., who is arrested, but he never even learns what he's charged with. And in his initial interrogation, he's actually referred to as a house painter. And Joseph K. says, I'm not a house painter. I work in a bank. This is obviously a case of misidentification. So I read the book I read a review of the book, Nothing to Fear, Alfred Hitchcock and the Wrong Men. And this is a recently published book about the movie, but it's also about, the first half of the book is all about all the misidentification of people that were in jail. And there was some, Hitchcock could have taken some much more severe cases than the case of Manny Ballesteros. There were cases of people who were wrongly accused that spent 10 years in prison. And then, you know, somebody confesses and they go back and they see eyewitness accounts were so shaky. But Hitchcock didn't choose any of those much more dramatic and, stories that would have really hit home better. And mostly, I think, because he wanted, what struck Hitchcock about this case of Manny Ballesteros was the fact that his wife was so affected. It was not just Manny being affected, his two children, but his wife. His wife, we see her as somebody emotionally, maybe a bit emotionally unstable, but as the case progresses, as they get a lawyer, as they try to find evidence that would give Manny alibis, and they struggle with that, her mental collapse begins, and she is in fact institutionalized because of this stress. And in the 1950s, she had to undergo shock treatment, which was electric shock treatment, which was the norm in the 1950s. Hitchcock thought that this was the heart of the matter, was how not just Manny is affected, but everybody else, and especially his two children, because they see their father charged. He may go to prison. They've lost their mother now. Their mother is in an institution, all because of these identifications. So the book, Nothing to Fear, makes the point in great detail, in historical detail, how the police overly rely on eyewitness accounts, and they still do, according to, and the writer of this book is a lawyer, but also juries. Juries depend on eyewitness accounts. In Manny's case, the lineup was perfunctory. It was really a joke. You're not allowed to get a lawyer until you're charged. In some states, that's not the case, but according to the book, in New York State, you're still not allowed a lawyer until you're charged. So you don't have any legal defense that's watching these perfunctory eyewitness identifications in lineups that don't have any kind of professional structure to them. So for the police are nice guys here, but once they get the eyewitness accounts, once they get the what they think is the handwriting analysis, their own personal handwriting analysis, it's just another case, another day at the office. They're nice guys. They feel sorry for Manny. They treat him well. He's not browbeaten. And then the prosecution takes it at face value as well. We've got this is an easy conviction here. No one asked Manny, where were you on this date and this date and this date? Manny has to do that all himself. They don't track it. So there's really, you can't say that this is so much a condemnation of the justice system, although it is to a certain extent, and at least in the sense that of a sense of evil, that there's evil motives going on here. And evil, as I've mentioned in my previous two videos on the other two Hitchcock films, very much a study of evil. So evil is not really here. But there is another theme that Hitchcock is very much interested in, and that is complacency. So we have the complacency of the police, of the prosecutors. Manny himself is complacent. He thinks, I'm innocent. You know, certainly they'll find the police don't look like bad guys. Certainly they're going to find out, the truth. But the police, once they have this handwriting and they have the eyewitness, Manny is just put down. That is just ushered down the line to jail. Now he did get out on bail, luckily. But Hitchcock is also reminding us of the doppelganger. reminding us of the possibility of the doppelganger. Is there somebody out there that looks just like me? And if they are, what are they doing? So we get a great view of New York City in the mid-1950s. Robert Burks, again, does the black and white cinematography. We get the Stork Club, we get the interior of the Stork Club. Hitchcock was a good friend of the owner of the Stork Club. And many sites around town. They did go back to the studio as it got very cold, and Hitchcock didn't like the cold. So they did eventually do some of the interiors. Some of the interiors are filmed in New York City, some are not. Now the film got a negative reception. This was not a Hitchcock film. And in 1956, Hitchcock was enormously famous. His television show, his anthology show, which he hosted, he did a little intro and then exit piece for every episode, and I think the book says it was the third most popular show in 1956 on television, which meant a lot of people watched it because there was only 3 networks in those days. But Hitchcock in the movies and was thought, this was following movies like Rear Window, To Catch a Thief. The same year that The Wrong Man came out, The Man Who Knew Too Much came out. All exciting, colorful films that full of the sort of Hitchcockian suspense and humor. This didn't have that, so there were some people, some of the critics, especially the French critics, who saw the Catholicism here, because man, he is a devout Catholic. He's asked to pray, and prayer becomes a significant moment in the film. But most of the critics said, there's no suspense, there's no drama here. And with the public, it didn't do well. Also, in 1956, especially in New York City, there was a crime wave. There was a pipe bomber. There's actually a pipe bomb found in one of the theaters where The Wrong Man was playing. The public was not in the mood to see someone who is wrongly accused and jailed for a crime. This was sort of a Dirty Harry moment in history, so that. Manny is, collateral damage. We have to be tough on crime. And, but in a way, I think Hitchcock is kind of here recharging his batteries. He was making films in the 1950s, one after another. He was in a creative frenzy, but sometimes he would pull back. You could see the trouble with Harry as being sort of not where he didn't have to deal as intensely with creating a made-up story. Although The Trouble with Harry is made up, but it's a whimsical comedy. This one he could just stick to the facts, and it's a story that, even though it didn't gain much favor with the public, was close to his heart. And The Wrong Man, in some of my research, The Wrong Man, like many of Hitchcock's films, it lives on because he put so much into his films, and they can be interpreted in different ways. And so it's a film. If you're a Hitchcock fan, of course, you have to see the film. But it is not. I would have to, from my own point of view, this is not essential Hitchcock. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.